Hello and welcome from Sleepless in Dubai. We're being filmed here in 25 Hours Hotel, and my name is Julie Mallon. I'm the founder of Nurture to Sleep, and I am very much everything that there is about sleep, and of course a mother of 3 incredible daughters. I'd like now to hand over to my co-host, Laura.
Hello, yes, my name is Laura Buckwell. I'm an international event MC, a broadcast journalist and mother of 2. And we are incredibly lucky to have with us today the brilliant and wonderful mountaineer, Naila Kiani. Thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Well, we'd like to get to know you a little bit more. I haven't given you a proper introduction, and I thought we'd leave that to you. So I know that your background sort of started in banking, didn't it? So tell us a little bit about sort of how that sort of industry started for you and how that sort of led all the way through to your incredible mountaineering.
So I actually worked in engineering industry before moving into banking. So for the last 7.5 years, I worked in banking, and I left banking very recently I'm on a short career break to complete this 14 highest mountains in the world. I never planned to be a climber. I just, I went to CK2 mountain a few years ago, 5 years ago to be precise. And I wanted to experience mountaineering. So I picked up a peak that was 8,000 meter peak. My aim was not to reach the summit. I just wanted to experience climbing. And I ended up reaching the top. And I think that was really the beginning of my mountaineering career.
And the rest is history, I suppose. Yeah. So how many peaks have you done and how many have you got to go?
So when I started climbing, like I said, it was just to experience it. And then that was 2 years ago. Last year, I climbed K2, which is one of the most difficult mountain in the world. Straight after K2, I climbed another peak called Gasherbrum 1. And I did not, even last year, I didn't plan to climb all 14 highest peaks. So I will just explain what 8,000 meter peaks are. So there are 14 peaks in the world which are above 8,000 meter. And then the significance of these peaks is that 8,000 meter, the area above 8,000 meter is called death zone because the oxygen is so low above the area that we cannot survive there for long. So climbing these peaks is considered to be one of the biggest mountaineering achievement. So I only plan to climb all 14 very quickly this year, just before my Everest expedition.
So from meeting you this morning, I had in my mind because of looking at how much strength that you need, how much the human spirit requires. And when I saw you this morning, it just reminded me of how there is so much strength in your gentleness. And we were talking before about what an absolute inspiration you are. And just to put into context, so you talk about climbing Everest and reaching the highest peak, which is something like how many meters again?
8,800.
8,800. The Burj Khalifa is 825 meters.
Wow.
So just putting it into some kind of context. So for you to achieve that, how does that work in terms of building your stamina and building your strength? How do you prepare yourself?
So in Dubai, I can focus on my strength and endurance training. We have lots of hiking spots in Fujairah, Ras Al Khaimah. We can do that. I cannot simulate the cold or lack of oxygen here. But I believe personally that mentally you have to be stronger to climb these peaks. Physically, I am strong, but I believe it's the mental strength that takes me to the top, and it's just my upbringing. I came from a very conservative family. I had a very tough childhood. I'm a mother of 2 kids, so I think all of that, and my girls give me the strength. When I'm going through a difficult situation, I think of them. I think all of that.
And again, talking about that mental strength and your background. So your background, you are only the second woman from Pakistan who has managed to achieve what you've achieved. And again, we need context, because if we're looking at the population of Pakistan, that is somewhere between 241 million people. and there's only 2 people that have achieved, which is you. So again, that strength that you have been able to find. We were also talking about it collectively, and perhaps the role of being a mother. So having gone through carrying a child and gone through labour, and that also gives you an added strength because it brings you into a very different, resilient place, when you are climbing. So again, we were really very much about putting it into context. And if we're looking at the population of Pakistan, where you have something like 241 to 250 million people, you are the second to climb Everest and yet the first to climb all 8. So for that achievement alone, again, we have to really celebrate, to give all the women that are coming behind you, like your 2 daughters, and all of the women, the females, to show them what they can do. Because culturally, where again has that come from you?
Growing up, I wasn't free to do whatever I wanted to do. So it was not easy. So I studied in England. So when I was at university, I tried everything that I could have done. And I couldn't share it with my family, with my extended family members or relatives. I was scared, what will they think? But I think right now where I'm at, I think my story inspires women, because I get a lot of messages from Pakistani women especially, but women all around the world, women in West too, which I didn't expect. So the message I want to share now is that we're strong. Women can do whatever they want to. Doesn't matter what stage of life they're going through. But I think what encouraged me was the difficult childhood, the pressure from society that we cannot do certain activities after getting married or after having kids. So I'm just pushing women in Pakistan or anywhere in the world that please don't think about what people will say, or don't, because of the pressure from society, don't stop following your dreams.
You really are an incredible inspiration, seriously. Let's talk about the preparation and what you need to do in order to climb these peaks. And also, because the altitude is so different, how does that affect your sleep patterns then as well?
So we don't sleep well in the mountain. The lack of oxygen affects the sleep. And especially during the summit push, when we're on higher camps, meaning when we're above 5,000 meter, it's not easy because we don't eat well, we cannot sleep well because of lack of oxygen, but we still have to push our bodies and mind to keep going forward.
But again, that just shows you the magnitude of the human body and the human spirit, where A, you're not eating well, B, you're not sleeping well. And we know in order for restoration and repair, we need to sleep well. And I know, again, with the mountains, it's, climb high, sleep low. And again, if we go back and look at, the lack of oxygen. So on average, our heart beats around 100 and somewhere between 60 to 100 beats per minute, 120 on average. Now, when you are in this death zone that you talked about, just for the benefit of our viewers and listeners, your heartbeat can get up to 160. And that's where it can leak into the cells and cause the brain to swell. So that's why we have got this death zone. So it is about your breathing, and so you're carrying oxygen presumably at that point.
So we start using oxygen. I mean, different people use oxygen at different points. I have used oxygen between 7,000 meters and 7,400 meters.
Right.
But even getting to that point, because we usually reach 7,000 towards the end of our climbing journey. So we maybe spend 3 or 4 days climbing above.
Okay.
So what are the sleep patterns like? Because I can imagine, because you're so exhausted after a day climbing, and the altitude, the oxygen levels are quite low, surely that would mean you'd actually be out, you'd be out for the night.
So sometimes we climb during the night. So we leave 7, 8 p.m., climb throughout the night and rest during the day. So I mean, the whole body clock is actually messed up on the mountain. I mean, if we're lucky, we get 4 hours sleep some days, but that too, not like interrupted sleep. So that's higher camps. At base camp, we get, I mean, if we're resting, we have more time in our tents, but then again, the sleep's interrupted. So we keep waking up again, because even at base camp, which is around 5,000, between 4,200 to 5,000 meters, the oxygen level is still quite low.
But again, all about that resilience. And if we can encourage that with our children, you know, we talk about that resilience is not born, resilience is learned. So you learnt your resilience from your upbringing. But even like, for example, you were a boxer. And, you know, again, when I was reading that about you, I was thinking that must have been quite, again, culturally quite difficult for you as a female to do boxing. So would you encourage your daughters to be doing any of these sports?
For over 30 years, our international team has launched campaigns across continents, bringing some of the world's biggest brands to life. Let our cross-cultural experience engage your audiences. Discover the Mirabelle difference at mirabelle.co.uk.
I mean, I'm sure I know what the answer is, but...
Absolutely. So I think what we want to do with our daughters is introduce them to a few different types of sports, and then whatever they're interested in, we'll let them pursue that. So I don't want my daughters to think that there are certain things that they cannot do. They will be free to do whatever they want to do, because I went through a very restrictive childhood, and that sort of formed up. So when me and my husband were planning kids, I never thought, actually, my husband told me to go and see K2 Mountain, because both of us said, I will not be able to go and do these adventurous activities after having kids. That's because, you know, women in general, especially in our culture, we don't do such activities after having kids. And then I was thinking, why not? I mean, what's the reason? What's the logic behind it? Of course, we want to look after our kids. We want to make sure they're looked after, but there's no other...
I know, and again, you know, when I was preparing to speak with you today and thinking about questions I wanted to ask you, and of course, one of the questions would be, how do you prepare your children, you know, as a mother, for you leaving on these expeditions? And I feel it's so much more weighted because you are a mother, as opposed to if it was a male.
Yeah.
Now,
It's always like that, though, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, it's just still the stigma of today, isn't it?
Exactly. And I believe it's not just our culture, even in the Western world, because I had some comments from my colleaagues from Europe, which were very similar to the comments I'd get from Pakistani females, for example. So not all, I do still get comments online that what kind of mother is she? She leaves kids behind, and I feel guilty myself too sometimes. I feel like, I mean, why am I doing this? But I chose to do this for a few reasons. One is that they're very young. I think, I'm not sure if it's true, but I think when they're older, they'll forget about it. It'll be more harder for me to leave 7 or 10 years old. So they get busy with their friends or school or toys. So I think it's easier for me to leave them now. And also, I want to do them. I want to climb all these peaks really quick, and then, you know, focus on the family later on. But I do feel guilty. I think this mom guilt will stay for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. I mean, you're always going to get mum guilt for whatever we do, right? Yeah,
I was with a parent yesterday, and they have a very young baby, and you can see the pressure from them. You know, they're both working full-time, in paid full-time work, I should say, but they're both, and they feel that they're not providing enough for the child. And I just said, your children, you've got 17 and a half years with this little person. You don't have to cram everything in. And so, again, with you, as long as when we are with our children and we are as emotionally present, and that can need only be 15 minutes. It's not that we have to spend days and hours, and it's just that when we are with our children, you know, when you're back and that you are emotionally present, that's what's going to make the biggest difference. But equally, we know the most powerful tool to any parent is role modeling. And you are such a phenomenal role model to your 2 daughters that you can do whatever you set out to do. My only concern, your restrictive childhood, that's actually what pushed you to be the person that you are. And when our children haven't got that, present day children, will they have that fight in them? I don't know.
I know.
So I think the different types of high achievers, either trauma or difficult upbringing, can push you to be a high achiever, or if you're if children have a very loving upbringing, support, and all the encouragement that they need. The support that, for example, I didn't have, or the encouragement I didn't have, but if they have that, it can also make them turn into a high achiever. I don't know what sort of resilience they'll have in future, but I believe that they will. They can still be high achiever because of the support.
But then again, they've got you as a role model. So I think that's sort of more important than anything, you know, whether it's upbringing or, I mean, as long as you have a role model to sort of look up to, I think that can, you know, inspire anyone, not just your children.
So one of my reasons to climb all these mountains was to inspire my own daughters, because I didn't want them to think that anything is impossible.
Yes,
I didn't want my children to think that anything is impossible.
So we haven't really touched too much on sleep. So what do you have to do to prepare any of these expeditions? Is sleep an integral part of that process?
It definitely is, because if you sleep well, then during the day you can, you know, focus on the training, focus on everything else that you need to do. I unfortunately in past didn't sleep very well, and I'd be looking for some tips from you. But I, you know, as I said, on the mountains it's even worse. So when I come back from expedition, I try to get to make sure that I'm well rested, and I try to stay in bed for longer, whether or not I have the quality sleep that I need. I think that's
so quality sleep's really important. But just in terms of your preparation before you go, so do you feel you're naturally a good sleeper, or you struggle with sleep? I really don't want to label anyone as a bad sleeper, because we're not. We just haven't learned how to do it properly. But were you a good sleeper?
I was a good sleeper. I could sleep anytime, anywhere. Even if my mom used to say, even if there's a drum, somebody's playing a drum next to you, you will not wake up. But I think since having kids, I just need to change my habits and be more disciplined with sleep, so I get better quality sleep.
I mean, what I'm just hearing throughout the whole of this interview is the contradiction of life. You know, you have to be so disciplined to climb this mountain. The discipline within you must be so vast. And yet we talk about not being disciplined enough to get some sleep.
Yeah.
This is everyday living, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think we sometimes, like, some of the skills that we use in one of our, you know, let's say career, we don't necessarily use our skills. So the mindset I had on mountains, I wasn't really applying it in all areas of my life. So I didn't apply it in my career, for example. So this discipline, I just need to learn to apply in all areas, and I think sleep is one of them.
You've always advised, and you said that NASA has come out with the perfect nap time, which is 36 minutes, is that
26.
right? 26, all right, 26. There you go. Which you can explain a little more in a minute. But maybe that could be quite useful for your expeditions, or is there time to nap on the mountain, or does that work?
When we're resting on base camp, we can, we have nothing to do, and sometimes so we nap. But on higher camps, it's not easy, because either it's too cold, windy, or it's too warm to sleep in the tent. I need to do more research to see if there are any other tips, but everybody struggles on higher camps.
Yeah, there is. I mean, again, if we're looking at naps, a nap can be helpful, particularly if you know that your night is going to be interrupted. So it enables to keep the cortisol levels down, and it's as little as 9 minutes.
Okay.
In terms of our Olympian athletes, the studies have shown us that with a 9-minute nap, that can boost their physical output and make a difference to their training, for example. So that you absolutely can achieve when you're in the mountain, you know, when you're climbing and in the camp. But as you were saying, the according to NASA, the perfect nap is 26 minutes. Now, the reason being is that you get enough of the different phases within one sleep cycle. Now, one sleep cycle is 90 minutes. So obviously we're not going to get a full sleep cycle. And if you could, during your day, if you were able to think, you've got a really tough 6 hours ahead of you, and if you could get an hour and a half, that would really set you up and make you even stronger, both physically and mentally, because then you would get our rapid eye movement, and that's all that emotional processing. So it will really help you with your strength.
And so final question, tell us or describe your perfect night's sleep. What is that scenario?
So for me, perfect night's sleep would be average 7 hours uninterrupted.
And do you prepare to do anything like that? Do you have herbal teas maybe, or do you have like a process to sort of get those fixed 7 hours?
Honestly, nothing. But I'm very inspired, because I think one of the things I struggled with was sleep, and I was indisciplined in this area, and I didn't do enough research. But it is very crucial as an athlete, for anybody, but especially because my training and my activity on the mountain is very extreme, and sleep is very important. So it was a very good reminder for me to do something about it.
And it's such an important reminder, because of the better you sleep, the less possibility of an injury. And in order to keep you as safe as we possibly can, you need to get some sleep, and that will help with your body in every single way. But just, in preparation, because I know you're going very soon, aren't you, off to another expedition?
Yes.
But in these few days, take some magnesium 3. At night, 1 hour before bedtime, because again, it relaxes the central nervous system, and that's going to help you sleep better. Do look at something such as chamomile tea. These are things that you can implement, and your children can have too. So we want you to role model in every way possible, not just being this incredible woman, but also this incredible sleeper too. So that's just to say thank you so much, and remind ourselves that if there is anything that you want to achieve, a good night's sleep is all that you need to do. And thank you from Sleepless in Dubai.